Rural roads account for more than 40% of all U.S. crash fatalities. Now, despite that data, many drivers still underestimate the dangers in these areas. In honor of Rural Road Safety Week, we're highlighting some commonly overlooked hazards. And Laramie Sandquist with Nationwide Agribusiness joins us now for a closer look. So good to have you with us, Laramie. So why can these roads be so dangerous?
Yeah, Tammy, you hit on it. National Rural Road Safety Week going on this week, and we wanted to do a perception survey out there. And what we found is 1 in 10 people don't view rural roads as overly unsafe, and I think we can all kind of agree with that. But of course, you stated some of the statistics that 40% of all deaths occurring on the roadways are happening on rural roads. And when we looked into it, you start looking at it, it kind of makes sense, right? The roads are a little narrower. They're a little more windy. You get to this time of year, especially here in Iowa, where the corn is pretty high and you get some, just your views that when you're coming up on intersections. And sometimes folks just don't take it as seriously as they could or should. So we're trying to get that awareness out, especially this week.
Yeah, it's so important. And I know a new nationwide survey highlights that dangerous kind of disconnect, so to speak, with many drivers not realizing that the dangers are there. Why do you think that disconnect exists?
Yeah, I think some of the things we've already talked about, we perceive them as being safe, and we always think of congested city roads as probably being a little more unsafe. But we forget about, some of our shoulders are less wide, and then, of course, the windy roads and things like that. But we also encounter a lot of other things on rural roads. You think about the slow-moving vehicles that are out there throughout the year. You think about the wildlife. You think about some of the people that are out there even exercising on the roads. We're sharing those roads with a lot of different exposures today than maybe we were. And then a lot of states are allowing ATVs and UTVs on these rural roads. We're seeing a lot more of that type of driving on the rural roads as well. So just being aware of what's out there and being aware of our surroundings is so important.
Right. And of course, I think patience has a lot to do with it as well, because, when you run in and that farm equipment is moving slowly and you are ready to get from point A to point B, that can play a role too, can it?
No doubt, 70% of those crashes are happening at speeds over 55 miles an hour. So speed is definitely a factor. We're also seeing fatigue as a factor. We're also seeing just overall distractions, of course. You think about it, in 5 seconds at 55 miles an hour, you're traveling almost the distance of a football field. So if you just happen to look down at a phone or a mobile device or, try to grab something out of the passenger seat, 5 seconds goes by pretty darn quickly. So just being aware that our margin for error on rural roads just isn't as high. And unfortunately, what we're also seeing is 50% of those folks dying in these incidents, don't have a seatbelt on. So something as simple as just clicking that seatbelt every time you get behind the wheel can be a lifesaver.
Yeah, such good advice there. And of course, these rural roads are so critical, for our farmers and ranchers having to get those products out into the next town and to where they can be shipped out across America. So let's talk about some more things that folks can do, and they just need to keep in mind to keep safety first when they're traveling rural roads.
Yeah, no doubt. We rolled out our Drive the Five program that hit on the 5 biggest exposures we see out there, the D being distractions, the I being under the influence, or the R being rested and aware, the I being under the influence, the V being making sure your vehicle is maintained, and then the E is kind of our catch-all, just the exposures that you run into and the environment that you're driving in on a day-to-day basis. So we came up with a website, nationwide.com/AIC, where we have all of this information for folks to get more details, also more supporting material, and also some more training materials if they have either kids or others that they want to work with to reduce some of these exposures out there.
Great resource there on that website. That's Laramie Sandquist with Nationwide Agribusiness. We appreciate your time today.